The stars had always been silent. For thousands of years, humanity looked up at the night sky and wondered if they were alone. On the morning of March 15th, in the year 2147, they got their answer. Captain Tejo was flying his patrol ship near Luna Station when his sensors went crazy. Red lights flashed across his control panel. Warning sounds filled the small cockpit. He looked out his window and felt his heart stop. Ships, hundreds of them, maybe thousands. They appeared from nothing, tearing holes in space itself. Each ship was massive, bigger than any building on Earth. They were dark and angular, like weapons made of shadow. They moved toward Mars in perfect formation, blocking out the stars behind them. Tejo grabbed his radio with shaking hands. Luna Station, this is Patrol 7. Do you see this? Please tell me you see this. The response came back filled with static and fear. We see it, Patrol 7. God help us, we see it. On Earth? Dr. Yuna was working late in her laboratory at the Global Defense Council, headquarters in Seoul. She was studying star charts when her computer screen suddenly went black. Then a face appeared. It was not human. The creature had gray skin stretched tight over a skull-shaped head. Its eyes were large and completely black, like pools of oil. When it spoke, the voice was cold and mechanical, translated by some unknown technology. People of Earth, I am Supreme Commander Dreth of the Voran Empire. Your planet has been selected for conquest. You will surrender all resources. You will submit to enslavement. You have 72 hours to comply. Resistance will result in the complete destruction of your species. This is not a negotiation. This is your only warning. The screen went black again. Yuna sat frozen in her chair. Her coffee cup slipped from her fingers and shattered on the floor. She did not notice. Her brilliant mind was already racing, already analyzing. She picked up her phone and called General Daesung. The general was already awake. He had seen the broadcast like everyone else on the planet. His office was chaos. Phones rang constantly. Aides ran in and out with reports. On his wall, a screen showed the alien fleet, now visible to every telescope on Earth. General, Yuna said when she reached him, I need access to all data we have on that transmission. The signal, the ship signatures, everything. You have it, Daesung replied. His voice was calm, but Yuna could hear the steel underneath. Find me something I can use, Doctor. Find me a weakness. Across the world, panic spread like wildfire. People ran through streets screaming. Stores were emptied in hours. Governments tried to maintain order, but fear was stronger than any law. Some people prayed. Some people cried. Some people simply stared at the sky, waiting for death. But not everyone broke dot in a small apartment in Bizen. A young engineer named Hana was hunched over her computer. She worked on a research station called the Horizon, but she was home on leave when the aliens arrived. While others panicked, she worked out Hana had always been good with signals and codes. It was like a puzzle to her, and she loved puzzles. The alien broadcast was encrypted, but encryption was just math. And math could be solved. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. Hours passed. Her eyes burned, but she did not stop. Slowly, piece by piece, she began to understand the alien language. What she found made her blood run cold. The aliens called themselves the Voran. They had conquered dozens of worlds. They had never lost a war. Not once in 10,000 years. To them, Earth was just another target. Humans were just another species to enslave. But there was something else. Something that made Hana's hands tremble as she read it. The Voran considered humans primitive. So primitive that they had only sent a small part of their true fleet. They expected no real fight. They expected easy victory. Hana immediately sent her findings to the Global. Defense Counsel. General Daesung read Hana's report in silence. His face showed nothing, but inside, something changed. The fear that had gripped him since seeing the alien fleet slowly transformed into something else. Something harder. They thought humans were weak. They thought this would be easy. They were wrong. Daesung called an emergency meeting of world leaders. Presidents, prime ministers, and generals from every nation appeared on screens around him. Some looked terrified. Some looked ready to surrender. One leader from a small European nation was already crying. "We should surrender," one president said. "We cannot fight this. We should save what lives we can." "They will enslave us," another argued. "Death is better than slavery. We should fight, even if we lose." The room exploded into argument. Voices shouted over each other. Fear and anger filled the air. General Daesung stood quietly and waited. When the noise finally died down, he spoke. 60 years ago," he began, "my grandfather fought in a war. He was a farmer. He had no training. He had almost no weapons. His enemy had tanks and planes and bombs. Everyone said he would lose. Everyone said he should surrender." Daesung paused. He did not surrender. He fought. And he won. The room was silent. Humans have always faced enemies stronger than ourselves. We have always found a way. That is who we are. That is what we do. Daesung's eyes swept across the screens, meeting every gaze. These aliens have studied our technology. They know our weapons. But they do not know our history. They do not know our spirit. And that will be their greatest mistake. He pressed a button on his console. Files appeared on every screen. Plans, weapons, strategies. "We have 72 hours. In that time, we will unite every nation, every resource, every weapon on this planet. We will show these Voron what happens when you threaten humanity." The leaders stared at him. Slowly, one by one, they began to nod. Far above Earth, Commander Dreth watched the planet with amusement. He had conquered many worlds. He had seen many species beg for mercy. Humans would be no different. His communication officer approached. "Supreme Commander, we are receiving a transmission from the planet." Dreth smiled, expecting surrender. "Play it." General Daesung's face appeared on the screen. His expression was stone. His voice was ice. "You want war against Earth? You have it. Come and take us if you can." The transmission ended. Dreth stared at the blank screen. For the first time in many years, he felt something he did not recognize. It took him a moment to understand what it was. Below, on the blue and green planet, humanity began to prepare. The clock was ticking. The enemy was waiting. And the greatest battle in human history was about to begin. The first 12 hours were the hardest. Old enemies had to become friends. Countries that had pointed weapons at each other for generations now had to share those weapons. Pride had to die so that humanity could live. But it happened. In Moscow, Russian generals sent their fleet codes to the Global Defense Council. In Beijing, Chinese engineers shared their most secret weapons technology. In Washington, the American president ordered every military base on Earth to answer to General Daesung. For the first time in history, there were no borders. There were no nations. There was only Earth. And Earth was getting ready to fight. Captain Teo received his new orders while still in orbit. He was no longer a patrol pilot. He was now wing commander of a new unit called the Iron Falcons. His mission was simple: build a strike force, train them fast, lead them into battle. He had 48 hours. Tejo flew to the military station near Jupiter's moon. Pilots were already arriving from every nation. Americans, Russians, Chinese, Europeans, Africans, people from every corner of Earth. They spoke different languages. They had different customs. Some of their countries had been enemies just days ago. None of that mattered now. "I do not care where you come from," Tae-ho told them on the first day. "I do not care what flag you served before. Today, we serve one flag. The flag of Earth. The aliens think we are weak. The aliens think we are divided. We are going to prove them wrong." Among the pilots was a young woman named Subin. She was small but fierce, with eyes that burned like fire. Tae-ho noticed her immediately. She flew her training runs with a kind of angry precision, pushing her ship harder than anyone else. He called her to his office. "You fly like you have something to prove," he said. Subin stood at attention, her jaw tight. "My brother was a pilot, sir. He died in a training accident 3 years ago. I fly for him." Tae-ho nodded slowly. He understood loss. He understood the need to fight for something greater than yourself. "Good. I am making you my second in command. Do not let me down." Subin's eyes widened, then hardened with determination. "I will not, sir." Back on Earth, Dr. Yuna had not slept in 2 days. Her laboratory was filled with screens showing alien ship designs, energy readings, and signal patterns. Coffee cups covered every surface. Her team worked around her in exhausted silence. "There," she said suddenly, pointing at her screen. "Look at this." Her assistant leaned in. "What am I seeing?" "The alien ships. They all connect to the flagship through energy links. The flagship is like a brain, and the other ships are the body." Yuna's tired eyes sparkled with excitement. "If we destroy the flagship, we do not just kill their leader. We cut the connection. The other ships will lose coordination. They will be confused, vulnerable." "But the flagship is the most protected ship in the fleet," her assistant said. "How do we even get close to it?" Yuna was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled grimly. T is someone else's problem. My job is to find the target. I found it." She sent her findings to General Dae-sung immediately. In Bizen, Hannah continued her work on the alien language. The more she decoded, the more she understood about the Vorin. They were arrogant. They believed themselves superior to all other life. Their battle tactics were based on overwhelming force because they had never needed clever strategies. They simply crushed their enemies with numbers. But Hannah found something else. Patterns in their formations. Gaps in their defenses. The Vorin were so confident that they did not even try to hide their weaknesses. They did not think anyone would be smart enough to find them. Hannah marked every gap, every weakness, every blind spot. She created a map of the Vorin fleet that showed where they were strong and where they were not. Then she sent it to Wing Commander Tae-ho. When Tae-ho received the map, he stared at it for a long time. Then he laughed. It was not a happy laugh. It was the laugh of a man who had just found hope in a hopeless situation. "They left the back door open," he said to Subin. "They are so sure we cannot hurt them that they did not even bother to protect their weak points. Then we go through the back door." Subin replied, "Yes, we do." Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, something was waking up. Project Hammer had been built in secret 20 years ago. It was meant to be a last resort, a weapon so powerful that no one ever wanted to use it. The project had been buried, hidden, almost forgotten. Now, General Dae-sung was bringing it back to life. The weapon was massive. It filled a cavern carved into the ocean floor. Thousands of engineers worked around the clock to prepare it. The device was an electromagnetic pulse cannon designed to release a wave of energy that could disable any electronic system in its path. One shot. That was all they would get. The weapon would burn out after firing. But if that one shot hit at the right moment, in the right place, it could change everything. Dae-sung stood before the weapon and felt its power humming through the floor. This was humanity's final card. If everything else failed, this would be their last hope. How long until it is ready? He asked the lead engineer. 40 hours, General. We will make the deadline. They soon nodded. Good. The future of our species depends on it. As the hours passed, the world transformed. Factories that once made cars now made missiles. Scientists who once competed now shared secrets freely. Soldiers who once trained to fight each other now trained together, learning to move as one force. And slowly, something changed in the hearts of people everywhere. The fear did not disappear, but it was joined by something else. Anger, determination, pride. The Voron wanted to see humanity break. Instead, they were watching humanity become stronger than it had ever been. With 6 hours left before the deadline, Commander Dreth received a report from his intelligence officers. The humans were not preparing to surrender. They were preparing to fight. Dreth was confused. They must know they cannot win. Why do they resist? His officer had no answer. Dreth stared at the blue planet below. Something was wrong. Something he did not understand. These humans were not behaving like any species he had conquered before. For the second time, doubt crept into his mind. Then a transmission came from Earth. It was General Deasung again. Your deadline has arrived, Voron. You asked for our surrender. Here is our answer. The transmission showed images. Ships launching. Weapons activating. Soldiers saluting. Billions of humans standing together, united, ready. Daesung's voice was calm and cold. You wanted war. You have it. The screen went black. Dreth sat in silence for a long moment. Then he gave the order that would begin the greatest battle in galactic history. All ships. Attack. The war for Earth had begun. The Voron fleet moved toward Earth, like a dark cloud swallowing the stars. Commander Dreth sat in his throne aboard the flagship, watching the blue planet grow larger on his screen. He expected this to be easy. He expected the humans to crumble at the first sign of real power. He was about to learn how wrong he was. The first surprise came near the moon. Hidden. Defense platforms that the Voron scanners had missed suddenly powered up. Hundreds of missile batteries opened fire at once. The dark sky exploded with light as human weapons slammed into the front lines of the alien fleet. Dreth watched 3 of his destroyers explode in seconds. His calm expression cracked slightly. How did we miss those platforms? They were hidden underground, Supreme Commander. The humans activated them remotely. Before Dreth could respond, the second surprise arrived. From behind a field of asteroids near Mars, human carriers launched their fighters. The Iron Falcons screamed into battle, led by Wing Commander Taeho. Their ships were smaller and weaker than the Voron fighters, but they were fast. And they were angry. All pilots, follow my lead. Taeho's voice came through every speaker. We hit them hard, we hit them fast, and we do not stop until they bleed. Subin flew at his right side, her fingers tight on the controls. The fear she felt was buried deep beneath something stronger. Hate, purpose. The faces of everyone she loved flashed through her mind. Her dead brother, her parents back on Earth. She would not let them down. Iron Falcon 2, engaging, she announced, and dove into the enemy formation. The battle was chaos. Explosions lit up space like 1,000 suns. Voron fighters died by the dozens as human pilots exploited every gap that Hana had found in their formations. The aliens had expected sheep. They found wolves. Taeho flew like a man possessed. He twisted through enemy fire, his ship dancing between death and destruction. Every shot he fired found a target. Every move he made was perfect. The Voron pilots could not touch him. This is impossible. A Voran pilot transmitted before Teho's missiles turned his ship into fire and metal. On the command ship, Dr. Yuna watched the battle through 1,000 screens. Her job was to coordinate, to find patterns, to help the fighters survive. Sweat ran down her face as she worked. Iron Falcon 7. Break left now. Enemy coming from above. Her voice was steady despite her racing heart. The pilot obeyed instantly. A second later, the space where his ship had been was filled with enemy fire. Thanks, Command. I owe you a drink. Survive first. Drinks later. The battle raged for hours. The humans were doing better than anyone had expected, but the cost was high. Ships were destroyed. Pilots died. The defense platforms on the moon fell silent one by one as the Voran overwhelmed them with sheer numbers. But the humans kept fighting. Su Bin found herself facing a Voran destroyer. The massive ship was heading toward Earth, ignoring the smaller fighters around it. If it reached the planet, thousands would die. She did not hesitate. Command, this is Iron Falcon 2. I am going after that destroyer. Yuna's voice came back immediately. Negative, Falcon 2. That ship is too big. You cannot take it alone. I am not asking permission. Su Bin pushed her engines to maximum. Her ship shot toward the destroyer like a bullet. Voran fighters tried to stop her, but she was too fast, too skilled. She wove through their fire like water through rocks. The destroyer's hangar bay was open, taking in damaged fighters. Su Bin saw her chance. She flew directly into the hangar. Inside, Voran soldiers scrambled in panic. They had never seen anything like this. A human pilot flying straight into their ship? It was insane. It was suicide. Su Bin armed every weapon her ship carried. Every missile. Every bomb. She aimed at the fuel storage tanks at the back of the hangar. This is for my brother, she whispered. She fired everything. Then she ejected. The explosion ripped through the destroyer from the inside. The ship broke apart in a ball of fire that lit up space for 1,000,000 miles. Su Bin's escape pod tumbled through the wreckage, battered but intact. Teho's voice filled her radio. Falcon 2, status report. Su Bin, are you alive? Still here, Commander. Ship is gone, but the destroyer is gone too. There was a pause. Then Teho laughed, a sound of relief and admiration. You are crazy, Lieutenant. Yes, sir. But it worked. The destruction of the destroyer sent a wave of shock through the Voran fleet. For the first time in 10,000 years, they were losing ships faster than they expected. They were bleeding. Commander Dreth stood from his throne, his black eyes wide with something that might have been fear. Impossible. These are primitives. How are they doing this? His officers had no answer. Dreth clenched his fists. Pride and anger burned inside him. He would not be defeated by insects. He would not be embarrassed before the Empire. Call for reinforcements, he ordered. Bring the second fleet. I want enough ships to darken their sun. The order was sent. Deep in space, a fleet twice the size of the first began to move toward Earth. Back in the battle, the humans sensed something was wrong. The Voran were pulling back, regrouping, waiting. Hana intercepted the transmission from her station on Earth. Her blood turned to ice as she decoded it. General, she reported to Dae-Soon. They have called for reinforcements. A second fleet is coming. It will arrive in 4 days. Dae-Soon received the news in silence. Around him, his officers exchanged worried looks. They had barely survived the first fleet. A second, larger one would be the end. But the general did not look afraid. He looked determined. Then we have 4 days to get ready, he said. And we still have one weapon they have not seen. He turned to his communications officer. Get me Project Hammer. Tay. Allow them to increase speed. We need that cannon ready in 3 days, not 4. Yes, General. Day soon looked out at the sky, where the first battle was finally ending. They had won this round, but just barely. The next fight would be harder. Much harder, but they were still alive. They were still fighting. And as long as humans had breath in their lungs, they would never stop. Across the solar system, Voron and human alike tended their wounds and counted their dead. The first blood had been drawn. The first battle was over. The real war was about to begin. Earth was bleeding. The first battle had cost, more than anyone wanted to admit. Half of the orbital defense stations were destroyed. Thousands of pilots had died. Cities that were hit by stray fire were still burning. Hospitals were overflowing. Graveyards were filling, and the reinforcement fleet was coming. Tai-Ho sat in the medical bay of the command station, his left arm wrapped in bandages. A piece of metal from an exploding enemy fighter had torn through his cockpit. He had kept flying anyway. Now, in the quiet of the medical bay, the pain was catching up. A medic tried to give him sedatives. He refused. I need to be awake. I need to think. Commander, your body needs rest. You have been awake for 3 days. I will rest when this is over. The medic sighed, but did not argue. She had seen that look in too many soldiers' eyes. The look of someone who had decided that their own life mattered less than the mission. Tai-Ho took out his communicator and recorded a message. His younger sister Mina was 17 years old, still in school in Seoul. She had sent him dozens of messages since the war began, begging him to be safe. He had not answered any of them. There was never time. Now, he made time. Nina, he said quietly, I do not know if I will see you again. I want you to know that I am not afraid. There are some things worth dying for. Our home, our people, our future. If I do not come back, please do not be sad for too long. Live your life. Be happy. And remember that your brother loved you more than anything in the universe. He ended the recording and sent it. Then he stood up, ignored the pain in his arm, and walked back to the command center. There was work to do. Dr. Yuna had made a breakthrough. She had not slept in 4 days, surviving on coffee and desperation. Her eyes were red and her hands were shaking, but her mind was still sharp. The flagship's power core, she explained to General Daesung and the other commanders. It operates on a specific energy frequency. If we can create a weapon that matches that frequency and detonate it inside the core, the reaction will be catastrophic. It will not just destroy the flagship. It will send an energy wave through all the connected ships. How catastrophic? Daesung asked. Big enough to disable their entire fleet. But someone would have to carry the weapon directly into the core. And the ship carrying it? Yuna paused. The ship would not survive. Silence filled the room. Everyone understood what she was saying. This was a suicide mission. A voice spoke up from the back of the room. I will do it. Everyone turned. Hannah stood there, her young face pale but determined. She had been listening from the doorway. I designed the frequency weapon, she continued. I understand it better than anyone. I should be the one to deliver it. You are not a soldier, Daesung said. You are an engineer. Does that matter? Someone has to do this. Someone who understands the technology. Someone who can make adjustments if something goes wrong. Hannah's voice was steady. I am not asking to die. I am asking to save my planet. Before anyone could argue, another voice joined in. She will not go alone. Su Bin stepped forward. Her face still carried burns from her escape pod landing. She walked with a slight limp. But her eyes were fire. I lost my brother because I was not there to protect him. I will not let that happen again. I will fly the ship. Hannah will handle the weapon. Together, we will finish this. Tae-ho opened his mouth to protest, but Subin cut him off. "Do not try to stop me, Commander. You need your best pilots for the main assault. This is what I was born for." Tae-ho looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. There was nothing more to say. General Daesung gave the final approval. "Prepare the weapon. You launch in 20 hours. Deep beneath Antarctica, Project Hammer was almost ready. The massive cannon hummed with power as engineers made final adjustments. The weapon was enormous, a machine that seemed to belong in science fiction rather than reality. It had taken 20 years to build in secret. Now, in less than 4 days, they were trying to make it operational. The lead engineer wiped sweat from his face as Daesung arrived. "Status?" the general asked. 90% ready. We are having trouble with the targeting system. The cannon was designed to hit targets in space from Earth's surface. We have never actually tested it. Will it work?" The engineer hesitated. "It should work, but I cannot guarantee it." Daesung put his hand on the man's shoulder. "And make it work. The fate of humanity is depending on this machine. And on you." The engineer nodded and went back to work. He did not stop for the next 18 hours. On the night before the battle, Earth was quieted out in cities around the world. People gathered with their families. They ate dinner together. They held each other. They said the things they had always wanted to say, but never had the courage to speak. Children asked their parents if they were going to be okay. Parents lied and said yes. Soldiers wrote letters to loved ones. Letters that might never be read. Priests and monks and imams led prayers in every language, asking for protection, for strength, for hope. And in space, the second Voran fleet arrived. It was massive beyond imagination. Ships filled the sky like a metal ocean, blocking out the stars themselves. The first fleet had been terrifying. This was apocalyptic. Commander Dreth stood on his flagship, watching his reinforcements arrive with satisfaction. The humans had surprised him in the first battle. They would not surprise him again. "All ships," he announced, "prepare for final assault. Tomorrow, we end this. Tomorrow, Earth falls." In the human command center, General Daesung watched the enemy fleet assemble. His officers looked at him with fear in their eyes. Some were crying. Some were praying. Daesung felt the weight of 8 billion lives on his shoulders. Every man, woman, and child on Earth was counting on him, on his decisions, on his leadership. He stood and faced his officers. "I know what you are thinking," he said. "You are thinking we cannot win. You are thinking this is the end." He paused. "Maybe you are right. Maybe tomorrow we all die. But I would rather die fighting than live as a slave. And I know every human on Earth feels the same way." He turned to the screen showing the enemy fleet. "Tomorrow, we show the universe what humanity is made of. Tomorrow, we fight. And if we fall standing up." Tae-ho addressed his pilots one final time. "They crossed the stars to break us," he said. "Let us show them why that was a mistake." The night passed slowly. Dawn came red and angry. And the final battle began. Every ship humanity had left launched at once. It was beautiful and terrible. A wave of metal and fire rising from Earth and its stations to meet the darkness above. The Iron Falcons led the charge, their engines screaming as they dove into the enemy formation. Behind them came destroyers, carriers, and thousands of smaller craft. Every vehicle that could fly was in the air. Every weapon that could fire was ready. This was it. All or nothing. Victory or extinction. Tae-ho felt strangely calm as he flew into battle. The fear was gone. The doubt was gone. There was only the mission. Only the fight. "All squadrons, stay in formation until we reach the flagship. Our job is to clear a path. Falcon 2 will do the rest. Somewhere behind the main force, Subin and Hana flew in a small ship loaded with the frequency weapon. They stayed hidden in the chaos, waiting for their moment. "How are you feeling?" Subin asked. Hana gripped the armrest of her seat with white knuckles. "Terrified." "Good. That means you are paying attention." The Varan fleet met them with overwhelming firepower. The sky became a storm of explosions and death. Human ships died by the hundreds. But they kept coming. They did not stop. They could not stop. Te-Ho found himself facing a wall of elite Voran aces. They were the best pilots the enemy had, flying in perfect formation around the flagship. Their ships were faster, stronger, more advanced than anything humanity had. It did not matter. Teo flew straight at them. His ship twisted and spun through enemy fire, dancing on the edge of death. His missiles found targets that should have been impossible to hit. His reflexes were faster than thought. Years of training, years of preparation had led to this moment. One by one, the Varan aces fell. "Falcon leader, the path is almost clear," a pilot reported. "Almost is not enough. Keep pushing." Subin watched the battle from her hidden position. Her hands were steady on the controls. Her heart was racing. When she saw the opening appear in the enemy formation, she knew it was time. "Hana, arm the weapon." "Already done." "We are ready." Subin pushed the engines to full power. The small ship shot forward like a bullet, slipping through the gap in the Voran defenses before anyone could react. The flagship loomed before them, massive and terrifying. Its weapons tried to track the tiny ship, but they were designed to fight larger targets. Subin was too small, too fast. "Approaching the core access point," she announced. 30 seconds to target. In the command center on Earth, Dr. Una tracked their progress on her screen. Her heart was in her throat. "You are doing great." 20 seconds. "Keep going." The flagship's internal defenses activated. Smaller guns, auto-targeting systems, energy barriers. Subin dodged and weaved, her piloting skills pushed to their absolute limit. A barrier shot up in front of them. There was no time to avoid it. Bin made a decision in a split second. She angled the ship so that it hit the barrier at an angle, scraping along its surface instead of crashing head-on. The impact was brutal. Metal screamed. Warning lights filled the cockpit. But they made it through. There. Hana pointed at a glowing opening ahead. "The core access point. Get us inside." Subin flew through the opening. They were inside the heart of the flagship now, surrounded by alien technology and pulsing energy. The core was ahead of them, a sphere of blinding light. Enemy soldiers appeared, firing weapons at the ship. Bullets hit the hull. Alarm screamed. "We have to do this now." Hana shouted. Bin brought the ship to a hover. She looked at Hana with eyes that held no fear, only peace. "Get to the escape pod. I will hold them off." "What? No. We go together or not at all. The pod only fits one person. You designed the weapon. You have to live to tell them what we did here." Subin grabbed Hana's hand. "Please, let me do this. Let me save everyone." Tears streamed down Hana's face. She wanted to argue. She wanted to refuse. But she saw the truth in Subin's eyes. "I will never forget you." Hana whispered. "I know." Hana activated the weapon and ran to the escape pod. The last thing she saw before the door closed was Subin turning to face the enemy soldiers. Weapon in hand, ready to fight. The pod launched. Seconds later, the frequency weapon detonated. The explosion was unlike anything the universe had ever seen. Energy poured through the flagship's core, spreading outward in a wave of blue fire. The great ship shattered from the inside, breaking apart like glass dot, and then Project Hammer fired. From the Antarctic, The massive cannon released its single shot. A beam of electromagnetic energy crossed the distance to space in less than a second. It hit the explosion at exactly the right moment, exactly the right place. The combined effect was devastating. A wave of energy cascaded outward, touching every Voran ship connected to the flagship. Electronics failed, engines died, weapons went silent. The reinforcement fleet, the great metal ocean that had blocked out the stars, went dark. Thousands of Voran ships drifted helplessly, their crews trapped inside without power. The war was over. Commander Dreth was found alive on his dying flagship. Human soldiers dragged him before General Daesum in chains. The once proud alien looked broken, confused, unable to understand what had happened. "How?" Dreth demanded. "You were primitive. Weak. How did you defeat us?" Daesum looked at him with cold eyes. "You studied our technology. You should have studied our history. We do not surrender. We adapt, we fight, and we never stop." Dreth had no response. 1 year later, Earth was healing. Cities were rebuilt, stronger than before. New defense systems were constructed. Monuments were raised to honor the fallen. Subin's name was carved into the central memorial in Seoul, along with thousands of others who had given everything for humanity's survival. Tae-ho, now Admiral, stood before the new fleet being built in orbital shipyards. Ships designed not just for defense, but for exploration. Humanity was looking outward now, ready to take its place among the stars. Dr. Yuna led a team of scientists studying captured Voran technology. What they learned would advance human civilization by centuries. And Hana wrote the official history of the war. She wrote about the battles. She wrote about the sacrifices. But most of all, she wrote about Subin, about a pilot who flew into the heart of darkness and brought light to the universe. At the end of her book, Hannah included a message, the same message that was broadcast to the stars in every known language. To any who would threaten Earth, we are humanity. We were forged in conflict, tempered by struggle, and united by hope. Come in peace, and we will welcome you. Come with war, and we will end you. The stars were no longer silent, and humanity was no longer alone, but they were ready. For whatever came next, they were ready.